So I'd like to start by saying we're really talking about restorative history now. We're talking about the fact that the past is not only about the past ever, it's about power. It's about who gets to tell the story now, who gets to erase the story, and who gets to correct the story. So as we think about revisionist history, I think one excellent example, and there are many, many around the world, but one I'd like to highlight is the Gulag Museum at Perm 36 in Russia. That is a site that for many years served to tell the story of dissidents, Russian dissidents, and political prisoners in Perm Russia. So the story of the Gulag Museum at Perm 36 is that it was the only Gulag, former Gulag, open as a museum. They had active programs that shared the stories of totalitarianism, life under totalitarianism. They also engaged their community in civic action programming, a vibrant site, visitors from all around the world, as those from the former Soviet republics and Russian citizens. They were doing such a good job, in fact, that the Putin administration decided that they were going to close the museum. So this is where we start to see the revisionism and erasure take place. The administration took over the museum itself. They locked down the archives, and they took the funds that were still left at the museum. So they began to retell the history and claim that there were never any political prisoners at this site. In fact, this was all for the most hardened of criminals. And now the story that's being reflected in the museum is the story of the guards. So the entire history of political prisoners at this particular gulag has been erased. There's not necessarily a positive to that unless we start to focus on the fact that this was an extremely effective museum. And telling these stories in the way they did, they became a target of an administration and those in power who decided actually they are engaging their communities in this history, engaging civil society, and we're going to bring about an end to that. So I would say this is an example of using digital formats in a way that's positive. So those who were involved in the Gulag Museum at Perm 36 began to move some of their collections and their archives to an online format. They realized that they would not be able to, for the moment, access the physical site, but they could begin to create an online presence. And so some of their records are now available online. And that's an example of how we actually can tap innovative digital practices and begin to get corrected stories out there that are countering revisionism and erasure.